The A Show.
Where smart is the new sexy.
And now, April Hunter.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the A Show, where we are going to have Bryan Calcott on tonight. He is controversial, viral, interesting. He was a runner for the cartel. He was one of California's most wanted. And now he has kind of transformed his life and become a health and fitness expert. And he's here to explain all of that. He just had a viral video, I guess, about 10 days ago. And we grabbed him off of that because he debated a very well-known doctor, apparently one of the sexiest doctor alive. I would love to know how he got to debate that guy, but he kind of cleaned the floor with him. So I thought it was really interesting because he adheres to a lot of the principles that we adhere to here on the A Show. So I thought it would be a really great opportunity to come on, and he agreed to come on. So he will be joining us shortly. But until then, welcome everybody. It's nice to see you. Welcome, Miss Eva D, my cousin, co-host, producer, and all-around great friend. So how's everybody doing?
Wow, I see everybody out there. We got Lon. And what's this about? Redo of being 50? I like that.
I like
Stay
that.
there. Don't go
Just
anywhere.
Redo it every year. Just be 50 and 50 and 50 and 50.
And a whole month of it, by the way, too.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
Yes.
I see Alex. I see Zach. Oh, National Chocolate Covered Anything Day. Okay, I can get down with that.
Absolutely.
That. Yeah, so I see, who else is here? Allie. I see people trickling in. Thank you for being here. We love you. Just a reminder that we have our holiday show next week. Where we had Colin versus Ray on a trivia and competition show. We did pre-tape that because of Ray's schedule. It's insane right now. So that will not be live. So this will be our last live show before the new year. So we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And then we'll be back in January with Rachel Suissa. She is award-winning director, actress, and writer. She has done Dangerous Liaisons, Greek Mothers Never Die, and many other films. And she will be joining us to talk about the re-release of Greek Mothers Never Die. So it'll be nice to have her on January 3rd. Yeah, it was a great movie. So many movies are not like feel-good movies anymore. There's always, like murder and suspicion, like all that. And the Greek Mothers Never Die is a feel-good movie. I love it. I just saw another one this week, you guys. Last Christmas. So if you're looking for a new Christmas movie that is like just something good, Last Christmas is with Khaleesi and you'll hardly recognize her. I didn't even recognize her. I had to watch it twice before I realized who I was looking at. So Mother of Dragons. She's the main star in this. Emma Thompson plays the mother. She is I think the writer, producer, director of this film. And it's just it's very fun, but it also has a surprise twist a few times in the movie. And it's it gets deeper and deeper and deeper as you go, but it is also a feel-good movie. So
interesting.
Last Christmas. It's really, really, really sweet. So,
well, what did I have to admit, there was a lot more out there than I expected of feel good, but not cheesy or overwhelming, sad or Lifetime feel.
Yes.
And I mean that in a way that I'm not one for those type of movies. But what's that?
Yes, it's a George Michael Christmas film. Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it is on my list.
Yes.
And hey, Winona. And
Winona.
Yes, you already have some bits in here too.
Yeah, I think it's Amelia Clark. I think that's her name. I'm terrible with names sometimes, but
I think Allie's right. Yeah.
Cool, awesome dude. Thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
Throwing
thank
bits
you.
already.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
and I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and since he brought that up, cool, awesome dude. Thank you. If you're not on Twitch, there's other ways you can support the A Show and April by what, April? since we're on audio, go ahead.
If you wish to send us presents or Cash App, you can tip us a Cash App. That is April Hunter 13 on Cash App. And
it is $ first, though. Don't forget that.
Yes, yes. My Venmo is April K Hunter. We love tips. It all goes towards doing this. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Now these decorations ain't free. These cheap ass we keep burning out. I keep buying them. So Amazon wish list. That is on my Twitter. So Twitter, the list is right there. So if you want to spoil your ginger or support the show, you can do both that way, and we love it. We love it. We love our Christmas gifts, our Hanukkah gifts. We love it. So thank you. Dabian is saying Amelia Clark. Amelia Clark was great in Terminator. I heard that. I didn't see it.
Yes, I remember her in that. I looked it up. Yes, I love Terminator movies. So yeah, there's your death stuff. But there was really good movies out there.
There really are. And yes, thank you, Alex. He said, don't forget Patreon. Yes, patreon.com, April Hunter, where I'm doing a daily countdown till Christmas picture of the day, or post of the day, actually, because it's entire galleries and videos too. So, and you do not have to pay to join. You can be on there as a freebie too. So, definitely go over to April Hunter on Patreon, patreon.com, April Hunter, and you can be a supporter, even if you don't want to be at a higher tier, which we love the higher tier people, but we'll take you. It's a good way to stay in touch. But yeah, my top 4 new Christmas movies. So last Christmas, The Man Who Invented Christmas, which was about Charles Dickens. Klaus, it's animated, and 8-Bit Christmas, which was
that was good. I was telling people about that today. I couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, those are my top 4 new ones that I think are going to be classics. I think they already are classics. So
there's so much out there, so many good things.
Yes.
So what are you doing for Christmas? Do you want to tell anybody anything?
Actually, what I wanted to mention is that this week is a special week. So we have Hanukkah this week. Festival of Lights. We also have winter solstice. We have new moon. So there's a lot of energy this week that is a manifesting energy. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but be careful what energy you're putting out there this week. We got 8 days, Sunday to Sunday, obviously, with a lot of good energy that can carry you into the next year. So consider that. Be in a good mindset, be in a good energetic, be there, light a candle, set your intentions, all that. And I know a lot of people may or may not believe in all that woo-woo stuff, but when energy flows where your mind goes. So if you set your intentions and you do your rituals, if you're Catholic, your rituals are your beads. If you're Jewish, you light your candles. Everybody has a ritual that we pour our energy into that makes things manifest. So, pay attention to these times, because this time here is a good energy. It's a good, light, energetic time. So you should take advantage of it.
I agree. Very much so.
Yep. With awareness. So I also want to say, be careful. Daryl brought something up. Speaking of Daryl, hello. Daryl said something earlier that Meta has a plethora of fraud ads out there. They're getting caught. So something like a solid percentage of the ads that we're being targeted with are absolute frauds. So be careful. Some 15 billion high-risk scam ads are going on at any time. And Facebook stands to make $7 billion in revenue from them. So be careful when being targeted by ads and buying on Facebook. Okay.
So if you see something, instead of clicking on it on Facebook, write it down and look it up elsewhere and make sure it's a legit thing that you were looking at to click on.
Yeah.
Can I bring up what we talked about on the whole messenger thing that was going on?
Yeah, go for it.
The AI. So there was that thing going around where you had to opt out of AI training on Messenger and your privacy. Yeah. I just wanted to bring that up. So
We
did some
tried.
digging. Huh?
We tried. We really, really, really tried. We spent a long time on Sunday trying to do this, you guys. So Eva went digging and digging and digging, and here's what she found.
Well, it turns out some of it wasn't real. So apparently, it was never proved and never actually happening where the AI training supposedly was going to be looking at your messenger private messages. So that was not actually a thing. So there was this form going around. Supposedly, you could opt out and go into your privacy settings, and it had to be done by the weekend on the 15th or 16th, and so that was actually not true. So that supposedly, from what I could find, it was not true. They're training on your public information that we already have, that's already out there, that we already know about, that they've already been doing for years, taking our crap from us on public stuff everywhere. So on your private messages, the only thing you can opt out of that they have put out there is actually through WhatsApp, which is also owned by Meta. So everything else, they are not doing that. They are not using your private information. They're not doing that. So if you have WhatsApp, please go in there and do that with your privacy settings and fix that so they don't. But if you opt in on your messenger to use AI for anything in your messenger, you just gave them the open door policy. So do not use AI for anything in your messenger private stuff, because then you just open the door. That's all I was going to say. Be aware.
That's fair.
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you for explaining that. We appreciate it very, very much. So, and she did a lot of research on that one too.
It's scary shit.
It is. I mean, think about that. When you read that, it's like every
messages.
Yeah, every breakup message on Meta, they could
naked pictures
from every naked picture you've ever seen or received, every angry work email, every family family chain mail, all of that. They could
anger, whatever.
Right, have access to that. Like, no.
All your fun stuff too.
No, I've never done any of that. I don't, never
has
had any of that happen in my life. But you, I'm concerned about.
No, not at all. No. Can we close it on Messenger? I'm not sure what you mean by that question, but
opt out of it, you mean, Alex?
So there is nothing to opt out of on there, Alex. It turns out that you can opt out of it on WhatsApp, but the thing is, don't let it in to your messenger. Once you let it in and allow or use AI for messages in your messenger, Facebook, then that's where you open the door to their policies and allow them in. So don't use AI in Instagram messages or Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, it's like a vampire. Once you invite them in, you can't get them to leave.
There you go. They suck you dry. And then they take your shit.
Jamir, thank you. Very much. I appreciate it. Let's see what else I want to. Okay. Again, Daryl sent this one too. Thank you, Daryl. And hi, War Demon. How you doing, AO? Webster has a new word of the year, speaking of AI, and it is, do you know what it is?
What?
Slop. Slop. S-L-O-P, slop. Also, like pig slop, mud, right? So slop, now defined, means fake content, low quality content, AI created content, fake news, propaganda, disinformation, junky AI written books, junky AI YouTube videos. So basically, it's just because people are getting kind of good about discerning AI. And props to you guys for all that. I think it's going to get more and more difficult. So you're up for, if you're up for a challenge, this is going to be a thing. But yeah, they're now calling it slop. I think that's appropriate.
So slop to me, yeah, it is appropriate actually. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Slop to me always was, I don't know, like pile of shit.
That's
I know, but wasn't it already a word though?
Oh, this is a pile of shit. It's propaganda. Yeah, so. Look at this fake ass AI written article saying that, you know,
Yeah, I agree.
your dog needs 17 vaccines.
Insta-pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, explain that real quick, and then we'll go
Okay.
to
Now that I blurted it out.
Insta-pissed, yeah.
Okay, so Instacart. If you are an Instacart person, be aware. So apparently they've been busted in many different ways throughout everywhere. So if you, all right, let's say you're shopping at Publix and you use Instacart to bring you the groceries because that's all they use there. And I think Target, a few of them do that. So you're shopping for one specific item, let's say bread. Bread's $2.99. You see it as $2.99. April sees it as $3.25 because she's a white redhead. Daryl on here sees it as $1.50 just because he lives over on this corner. Or Lon sees it over here because she lives in a nice community. Excuse me, and it's $5. So they're all looking at the same things at the same time. Did you just
totally racially stereotype a whole bunch of us?
That's what they're doing, though. That's what they're doing.
Oh, so AI is racially stereotyping a bunch of us.
Instacart is doing that. So that's that, and they got busted. They got busted for the same thing.
Well,
and
I identify as, what can I identify as? Because you can identify as anything these days. So
vagina.
No, I want to be trans. I'm gonna be a trans Mexican.
There you go. So change that on there, and maybe Instagram will charge you whatever they want to charge you. But my point is that they got busted for doing that. For everybody looking at the same thing, they're charging everybody a different price, and they got busted for it. So they're going to be sued to shit, and it's going on.
They took a page out of the airlines books. The airlines have been doing that forever.
Yes, airlines started it, and Instagram, Instacart. So one of the terms everybody's using is Insta-pissed, as a new term to go around. Insta-pissed. I am Insta-pissed. So anyway, that's where it came from, and there's more to that story coming to you in a show near you.
And Dabian says crypto is AI fake money. No kidding. I've always had a rabid distrust of crypto.
Me too. So, but sometimes you got to use it anyway. You got
more.
Let's go.
Swap, unfortunately, this is really weird too. I just watched Spinal Tap 2 last week. And I thought it was fucking brilliant. It was just as good as the first one. It was hilarious. It was well done. And I thought to myself, Rob Reiner still has it. He still has it. Now I have.
Sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was a badly timed laugh.
That was.
So
that's what you said that over the weekend. And then the next day that happened.
Well, well, I have. I've seen his rants on social media, on Twitter. And I've written to him a bunch of times, and I was like, hey, listen, I'm like, don't let the current administration live rent free in your head. And don't be part of the problem by spreading so much hate. Just, it's our responsibility to spread the light, to be the light, You're spreading so much hate and anger and angst. Of course, no one listens. They just do their own thing. So when I heard the other day what happened to the Reiners, I was like, oh my God. Like it felt like a gut punch. I felt really sad. And as much as he was annoying, he was still entitled to his opinion. And I said to somebody, we're watching the movie, and I said, you know what's sad? I said, this guy is so fucking brilliant and so creative, and he's ruining his legacy by just spewing all the time about politics. That's all he's going to be known for. And he's so talented. I said, and when he dies, that's what people are going to talk about. Like literally a couple days later, he died. And I felt like, oh my God. And then I saw what people were saying. And you guys know I'm in the middle, right? I'm not left, I'm not right. And I think it's really shameful. All right, we went through this with Charlie Kirk, and we're now not setting any better of an example with Rob Reiner. Do not be a dickhead. Just don't.
Right.
Don't. You cannot. don't say that somebody deserves it because of their political opinions. We don't know what's going on. This is a family thing. This
Yeah.
is and family. There's a reason why a lot of police always stayed out of family things. So it's he contributed a lot to he came in our living rooms, he contributed a lot to us laughing, he gave us a lot on film. Nobody deserves to be desecrated after they die. And how that happened was whatever happened behind closed doors there. And I really thought it was awful what Trump said. I thought it was really shitty.
Honestly, I did not
Really
hear
shitty,
it.
really
It
low
had to have been bad.
class, and the dude really needs to stop referring to himself in third person. And don't get me wrong, he has his good moments, but that was not a good moment. So can we not do better? Can we not do better?
We can
So
always do better.
let's try and do better. Okay. All right. So
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yes, rest peacefully. And I don't get the impression that Rob Reiner was at peace the last X amount of years. So hopefully he is now. That's the best, I do. I hope that he is at peace now. So, and I am very grateful for all that he has given us and all the laughs and all the times he's, like I said, come into our homes and made us laugh. So
well, look how
goes
they
to 11.
tried to butcher Robin Williams too. After he passed away, and others as well, and and he too brought a lot into our years and years, and still does into our living rooms.
Yeah.
So,
and
Kenny, I'll be at peace.
Yeah, Kenny says, it's a different perspective. Life means nothing really when we're gone, and if anyone gave a damn about us, and they're gone too. And these memories, if they're good, they're gone, and the lights go out, and we're dead. No existence, just like before birth. That's how some people view it. I don't think that's how it goes. I think we reincarnate, and every time we're here, we're learning new lessons and creating new karma and dealing with past karma. So I think that we are supposed to keep elevating ourselves and humanity. So every time we come around, we elevate a little bit more. We handle karma from our past lives. And unfortunately, we create karma in this one too. So that's why they said it was the age of Aquarius. How many, 40 years ago would happen now? There would be an awakening and enlightenment. How did they know that 40 years ago and make a song about it? Age of Aquarius. And here we are. The age of Aquarius happened in February, and there's been an awakening and enlightenment.
Yes.
What?
Kenny's got a question. I haven't seen that, but I don't know if you have. Just yes or no, I guess. He says, is he the only one that has seen pictures of his kid with a shaved head that Rusev from WWE did? I don't know. We're going to see a lot of things out there. Anytime there's a public person that had passed away. So
yeah. And Daryl says, respectfully, life, at least to me, means everything. I'm with you. I think it's a gift. It's a gift, and we should grab everything we can, every little bit of joy we can, everything we can get out of it, every experience. Right. And I think a life well lived includes a lot of fuck ups, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of ups and downs. If you're living a boring life in a house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a white picket fence, and you've never done anything or gone anywhere, you have not dealt with enough resistance, enough adventures, enough experimental living. You have not lived your life yet. So sounds ideal, not ideal. So yeah, I don't know.
I agree. So
I'll say this, and I'll say it again too. There's a lot going on. The holidays are hard. There's a lot going on in the world. And I heard this and I thought, gosh, that's somebody much smarter than I said it. Is don't let the world change your smile. Let your smile change the world. So
somebody that walks by, you give them a smile. That little smile or that little hello when you're walking by somebody in the store, in the parking lot, that wave, thank you. What did you say when there was different types of people out there? We said this the other day. that when somebody's crossing the street in front of you, or you stop and let somebody walk across the street, most people will, hey, thank you, even if it was their right to walk across the street. Most
Right.
people wave back, hey, thank you. Then there's the people that don't acknowledge that.
So they did a psychological study. The people who automatically wave when a car stops and lets them walk in front of them live from a place of gratitude.
Yeah.
So if you're, and they don't even think about it, it's just an automatic, hey, thanks, or the smile and wave if somebody lets you out, what your traffic's bad, somebody lets you out and it's like the smile and wave. Yeah, those are the people that basically live in a place of gratitude, and then you have everybody else. So
exactly. Yeah.
Then there's everybody else. So yeah. So I thought that was an interesting study.
Yeah, it was yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's a good note. And yeah. So smile. Say hello to people.
Yeah, and you're
Make
right.
Somebody else day.
You're right, Daryl. Don't ever lose your sense of humor. Hell no.
Right on.
You can't laugh it off. So without further ado, we have Bryan Calcott here. Let's bring him on. Yes. So hopefully he's ready. Hello.
So.
Hi. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. About yourself?
We're doing great. So Bryan, thank you for taking time to join us.
Yes.
We appreciate it. So
welcome.
We introduced you earlier, but to everybody once again who's joining us later, Bryan is a phenom of sorts. He has lived a hell of a life, going from California's most wanted to running your own fitness and health, everything entrepreneurial. And about 10 days ago, you went viral for debating the sexiest doctor in America.
Yeah, the good old
and kind of wiping the floor with him.
Yeah, the big pharma shill. I mean, you literally were debating PR company talking points. I personally think that it wouldn't surprise me if Dr. Mike reached out to Jubilee and asked to be on the show again, because those talking points, if you see what he started with, all of the influencer, like big pharma shills, they're all just parroting all of the same points. And it's a weak argument. The other thing too is that it also was dishonest. So how Jubilee works is that if you're in the surrounded part, you don't know who you are debating. You do get the prompts about a week before you go on, and they're telling you what the person you're debating wants to talk about. So one of the prompts was big pharma versus big supplement. So of course I did the research on big pharma versus big supplement. Big supplement, if you want to call it that, whatever. It's only about 10% of what big pharma is. And then the other differentiating factor is that if you look at big pharma in like 2023, the last year we have data on, they spent about $435 million lobbying. Big supplement, maybe there was like $400,000 being recorded. So there's not nearly as much money spent. And there's also no real organized lobby from, like big supplement in Washington, D.C. So I thought that the comparison was already dishonest. But then during the debate, and this is what everybody's parroting now, is now they're talking about big wellness. And big wellness, he then throws the number out and he says it's $2 trillion versus $643 billion. And so my first question to him was, what was the operational definition? And his eyes kind of got big, and he knew exactly what I was getting at. And I told him, I said, I'll bet you dollars to donuts that when I go look this up, that big wellness is throwing this massive, wide sweeping net to include every dollar you can in revenue to say, oh, look, big pharma isn't the big guy on the block. It's big wellness. Big wellness is so much bigger. So of course, find the study that he was referencing. And lo and behold, big wellness includes if you have a gym membership, if you go to CVS and you buy face wash for your face, that includes big wellness. So you just look at this list that they had to come up with this $2 trillion number. And there's no way that he just came up with that and said, oh, let's start talking about big wellness. And here's this study that actually supports it. I mean, and that's the part that gets me, is that the people on the left, they say that people on the right are so brainwashed, but yet they can't see just this clear evidence of this propaganda and these just orchestrated propaganda machines where it's like this influencer starts picking this up. And don't get me wrong, people on the right do the same thing. Both people have their talking points, but when it comes to big pharma, if it really is just about the science, then why do you need these PR companies to come in and clean up your mess and clean up your reputation? And it wouldn't surprise me if Dr. Mike has just been a big pharma shill from day one. You know, how did he get People Magazine's sexiest doctor alive? So I think that they understood, you know, where things were going and said, here's how we create someone. Because the thing of it is that I really missed the opportunity to tell him. I felt like telling him, like, look, Dr. Mike, you and I are both the same. We both made millions of dollars selling drugs. The difference is the cartel that I worked for, you know what I mean? When we get caught, we go to prison. The cartel that you work for, they get caught, they kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and no one's gone to prison. So that alone, like when you've been to prison, when you see even people on Wall Street that get taken down, like there are people that have influence that still get taken down. Look at Diddy, you know, the most recent example. And in comparison to like what Diddy supposedly did or didn't do, I won't get into that, but you know, he still had a lot of money and he still went to prison for that. Now, compare that to what Big Pharma did with the opioid epidemic. I mean, this is absolutely insane.
And it continues.
There was a Sacklers.
And it wasn't.
And they never.
They don't even have to pay the $7 billion. And the thing of it is that it wasn't even as if the United States attorney on the case was saying, hey, we don't have enough evidence for a conviction. No, the United States attorney on the case was saying we have enough evidence for a conviction and we want a conviction, and so was the DEA. So how much power and influence do you have when in the very upper echelons of the United States attorney's office is saying we have enough evidence for a conviction, we want to convict, and it doesn't go to criminal trial? I mean, that if that can happen in the criminal justice system, I'm sorry, but that entire industry has no credibility. They could literally twist and contort things however they want. And that to me is like, you know, the main contention where he got upset about saying, oh, RFK is, you know, saying that I'm a profit monger. And that really upsets me. And it's just like, you guys have done this to yourselves by not being willing to have a debate, by not admitting the flaws in your own system. So it's like, you're never going to restore faith in the system by attacking the skeptic. You need to stop giving ammo to the skeptic. And they just continue to give ammo to the skeptics, and it just makes things worse and worse. And so there's no accountability whatsoever.
No, it drives me nuts to see people still. I mean, like people like Fauci still walking the streets. There's nothing.
That's like a whole other one.
You know, and it just keeps happening over and over again. And this has been like, you've been in the business for a while of health and fitness, so you know this didn't just start happening when people woke up with COVID. This has been going on for years and years and years and years and years. Like when you get into fitness, if you get into fitness or if you have chickens, you become a conspiracy theorist because you just start seeing things. So like what they're telling you is healthy versus what you know is healthy are two different things. You know, your food pyramid versus their food pyramid, you know, 25 years ago, you're like, something's not adding up here.
Yeah.
You know, you get chickens and you're like, why do the eggs taste so good versus the store-bought eggs? Something's not adding up here. So then COVID came out. Woke everybody up. Yeah. Dr. Attia, he talks about some really good points where he talks about, you know, they want to measure all these biomarkers, cholesterol, blood pressure, and blood sugar. And he said, you know, respectively, if you improve your blood sugar, improve your blood pressure, and improve your cholesterol, you know, you're looking at like 20 to 30% increases relative, not absolute, relative risk. If you increase muscle mass, 200%. If you increase VO2 max, 400% increases. So you go into a doctor's office and they look at your, you know, metabolic markers and say, oh my God, we need to put you on all these drugs. Statins.
Even if you get those under control, you're looking at 20 to 30% increase. But yet here's something that's going to get you a 200% increase and 400% increase. And they're not telling you to do that. And then the other thing too is that if you increase your muscle, if you increase your VO2, guess what? Like your blood sugar, your cholesterol, all of your blood pressure, it's going to regulate itself too. So you literally would not need pharmaceuticals. And that was probably the biggest thing that people called me a conspiracy theorist for and said, I'm out there, you know, preaching lies. because I'm talking about VO2 max. And it's just like, this is from your own organization. The American Heart Association has known this for years, that it is the most important predictor of both longevity and risk for chronic disease. And they know the numbers that the higher your VO2 max goes, the less risk you have across the board for everything. And if you are in the upper 2 percentile for your age group, your risk for all-cause mortality, everything is basically next to nothing. I've literally done hundreds of VO2 max tests with people. You can see in the respiratory exchange ratio and their lactate threshold, you can tell how healthy they are, because everything is about the mitochondria, and it's a direct reflection of mitochondrial health. And it blows my mind too, because everybody's talking about the mitochondria, now supposedly if you're obsessed with the mitochondria, you're a fucking conspiracy theorist. And I'm just like, hey, I would love to debate the biological mechanisms of action when it comes to the fucking mitochondria, because if you're saying the mitochondria is not that important, it's you guys who do not understand how the human body works.
No, wait, explain for the average person what VO2 max is in simple terms.
Gotcha. So VO2 max is just measuring the volume of oxygen that your lungs can take in. That's the first parameter of it. So the more volume of oxygen that you can take in, the healthier you are. I mean, your lungs are a muscle. It's like a balloon. It's getting stretched out. It's able to handle more oxygen. But the most important part of a VO2 max test is what's called the respiratory exchange ratio. So there's a ratio of carbon dioxide to oxygen as you breathe in. And then what happens is that oxygen goes into your body and it goes into the mitochondria. And depending on whether your body is using primarily glucose or primarily fat, there's going to be a different exchange ratio. And so if people are more fat-based, oxidative phosphorylation means they have healthy mitochondria. Guess what? They're just healthier all around. If they're mostly burning sugar and then their body's only reluctantly burning fat, then they're just simply not as healthy. And they reach what's called the lactate threshold a lot sooner. The lactate threshold is when there's so much lactate, which ultimately it's hydrogen ions that build up. That's what they call it, lactic acid.
That's when you start getting cramps.
Yeah, and that's when you start getting cramps, and that's when you hit your point of fatigue. Well, that happens because outside of the mitochondria, you do have some ATP production from glucose, and it's not as efficient, but it's very, very quick. So the first, not a lot of people know this, but creatine is actually related to ATP production. Creatine is what's going to hit the fastest, give you the biggest increase in ATP right away. Thereafter, it's going to be glucose. And then your mitochondria is slower if you're not using it and you're not increasing its strength and efficiency. But what happens is that the glucose molecule, after it's gotten all of the ATP out of it, it turns into something that's called pyruvate. And pyruvate will enter into the mitochondria, and it will enter into the Krebs cycle to ultimately produce ATP. Well, if the mitochondria is filled with fat substrate, the pyruvate can't get into the mitochondria. It bounces off and it becomes lactic acid. So if you reach your lactic threshold sooner, it means that your mitochondria are not efficient with burning fat. And it also means that your body is burning a lot of sugar faster. So these are direct measures of mitochondrial health. And so that's why it's not just the volume of oxygen, but it's also what's going on with your mitochondria. Chris Masterjohn, who I think is probably, when it comes to like health and understanding the human body, especially to research also, his level of understanding from research, he calls everyone on their bullshit. But he's obsessed with the mitochondria, and he has specific tests where there's what's called the electron transport chain inside the mitochondria. And that's where you're having all these reactions. The end one is actually where oxygen attaches to an enzyme called cytochrome C oxidase. And that's where you're creating these whole bunch of hydrogen. It's complicated anyway. So everybody will have genetic variations to where one of those complexes won't work as efficiently as it should. And it'll start to back things up. And if things start to get backed up, well, what happens? Oxygen comes into the body, goes into the cell, tries to go into the mitochondria. It can't enter inside the mitochondria. So what does it do? It becomes a reactive oxygen species. And reactive oxygen species that are produced as a result of ATP production are actually healthy. Your body uses glutathione to take care of them and neutralize them. But reactive oxygen species and other oxidative molecules that come from mitochondrial dysfunction, those are the ones that damage DNA. Those are the ones that turn on cancer genes on and on and on and on. So there's a theory that all disease is essentially the same cause. It just manifests in different symptoms. So, like my mother has Parkinson's. So it means that, whatever's producing dopamine in her brain, the oxidative stress, that's where it manifested its symptoms. If you have cancer, this particular kind of cancer, that's where it's manifested its symptoms. And so Chris Masterjohn has used this testing to treat numerous people with all sorts of diseases. And he just focuses on the mitochondria and the electron transport chain, and he fixes that, and lo and behold, their symptoms go away. But then they're going to throw him in a category and say, oh, he's big wellness. He's just trying to sell his test. It's a fucking $600 test. It's not even like it's that elaborate. And then he has his own supplements, but he also tells you, like, look, you don't have to buy these supplements. You can buy other people's supplements. So it's not even like he's trying to sell supplements himself. I mean, he really does have a lot of integrity. And me personally, like I said, I haven't seen one person that has that level of understanding. When COVID came out, he looked at the first Pfizer studies that came out, and he was the first person I saw sounding the alarm. And he said, look, I don't care what they're telling you. If you look at what the data is really telling you, he said, these vaccines will not stop transmissions. Like, he was literally one of the first people to say it. He was also one of the first people to look at the blood results of the people that were dying from COVID, and they were dying from acute respiratory distress syndrome. So he's looking at it saying, okay, they're dying from acute respiratory distress syndrome. What are some other biomarkers in their blood? Well, guess what? They have very, very high levels of cytokines, and they have very, very low levels of vitamin D. So you put all this together and you say, okay, well, acute respiratory distress syndrome is characterized by a cytokine storm in the lungs. And we know for a fact that vitamin D's role is actually to keep cytokines in check. So here are these people who are unhealthy. They don't have enough vitamin D. And so their body's trying to fight the infection, and the cytokines get too crazy. And so it's literally like the body killing itself. And then you look at all the other data and you say, okay, people of color, the further north that they live, especially in winter months, they were more affected by COVID. Well, gee, why is that? Because their skin is so dark, they need massive amounts of sun exposure, which they're clearly not getting in northern latitudes in wintertime to produce enough vitamin D. And so he presented evidence on Facebook and Instagram saying, look, vitamin D.
How fast was he censored?
Oh,
I was just thinking that.
Because that happened to us, the same thing.
Yeah. So what's crazy is he was not that. He's from New York. Like, you look at him and you think like, oh, he's a liberal. He, used to be a vegan. He, switched, went to not carnivore, but, like more like meat based, like, said it impacted his body. But he, like, you look at him and you're like, this dude's a New York liberal. And maybe he was kind of on that side of the spectrum. Well, he during COVID, he saw how he was getting censored. And he's just like, you look at him and he almost doesn't even seem like he has like normal emotions like a human. He's just a scientist. Like, it's almost just blank. You can't really see him get mad. You can't really see him get happy. He's just like the absent-minded professor, like all about the data. And so he prides himself on that. And all he was doing was presenting data, presenting science, and they started censoring him. And like, oh, okay, there's something going on here, because he was reaching out,
because he was right.
Yeah, well, he was like, it's just science, it's just science. And then when
there's a difference between science and the
propaganda.
Science.
Yeah, the science.
They said follow the science, not science.
Okay, yeah.
They are two different things.
The makes all the difference. You're right. It does. Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah. So he then looked at the Pfizer study, and he started looking at all the vaccine studies. He's like, okay, this is hocus pocus bullshit nonsense. And someone said, well, why don't you look at all of the other vaccine studies? And he was just like, you know what? Why don't I go look at all of these other vaccine studies? And he went into them and he said, look, you can say that they've been tested, but as far as truly efficiently being safety tested, he was just like, there's no way. There's not one vaccine. And I don't want to characterize him like saying, huge generalizations like that. But he did say, that the vast, vast majority of vaccines have not been properly safety tested. And that's what RFK's beef was too, was that there isn't one vaccine on the childhood safety schedule that has been randomized controlled trial where it was double blind and the placebo was inert. The placebo has always had aluminum in it. And so Fauci said, no, we have one where the placebo was inert. And so RFK chased him around for a year asking for it. And he never could produce it. So then RFK sued him in the NIH. He couldn't produce it. And so there's a United States District Court, like an official decree that literally like had the NIH and Fauci state that there isn't one vaccine on a childhood schedule, recommendation schedule that's been tested with an inert placebo. And it's just like, so this is the gold standard when it comes to safety testing. And yet you reject it when it comes to vaccines. Like, I'm willing to listen if you can give me a reason, you know, why you do this. And I keep asking and nobody can give me a viable reason. And so it's just like when you start asking reasonable questions, when you say, hey, this is your standard, this is what you've come up with, and you won't allow it to be rejected anywhere else. But then when it comes to this particular hot button topic over here, you reject it. And look, I would be okay with that if you would actually engage with me and you would answer the question and not try to be like, look, you just have to trust the experts. And it's just like, well, you know, you get on to me for saying, trust me, bro. And it's just like, well, that's the same damn thing as like, trust the experts. It's just like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to appeal to authority. I have the right to ask questions. If you understand like research methodology, it's literally just logic. So if you ask me, people that have studied logic and like philosophy understand research methodology more so than these doctors, because you go and you look at how the studies are being put forth, and half these doctors don't even understand like their own fucking methodology. And the conclusion is only as sound as the methodology. So that's great that you want to talk about the conclusion, but I want to talk about the methodology. And I want to talk about, is it flawed? And I want to talk about why we have these double standards to where we use this methodology over here, but then over here, we reject this methodology.
Yeah, well, obviously you're a phobic and a racist, so there.
Yes, all of those things. Conspiracy theorists. Yeah.
All of it. I want to play the video too.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds like that's partly why these small southern towns got hit hard first too. I live in a town in Kentucky where it can go from hot to cold pretty quickly. December 2019 is when everyone, myself included, got COVID before the doctors were even really saying what it was, and that's when I got it too.
Florida too. Yeah,
we got the alpha version, you know.
Yeah, it was pretty rotten.
Yeah, it was. Can I play your video to show you in action with this?
Yeah, of course.
Because I was actually impressed in how you handled yourself. So
yeah, this was really, really good.
Yeah. So let's find that real quick. Let's see. I think I've got it.
I'm trying to get Jubilee. I told him, I said, do one Googler against 20 doctors. I was like, put me in the center. I was like, go get every doctor that you want. I was like, put me in the center. I sent him an email like once a day because I talked to the director when I was there and tried to get them to do it. So we'll see. But I would love to be in that hot seat surrounded by 20 doctors.
Yeah, we have questions for you.
Can you see this?
I can. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, we'll play it. By the way, this is the sexiest doctor alive, guys. So
2015.
Respect, all right? Here we go. I made a comment too. I did a straw man argument on this. This is how I ended up. I made a comment about this, and we'll talk about that later. But
my first rounded claim is that RFK Jr. is decimating public health and should step down as Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Bryan.
Pleasure, Bryan.
Sure.
Nice to meet you.
So I have a few questions to start with, just because I want to make sure that we're actually debating the topic that you would like to debate. To say that he's decimating public health, are there specific measures that you would like to cover, to talk about, that you believe constitutes the decimation?
Yeah. So where do we start? In order to do good public health, in order for me to know what treatments are right for my patients, we need to do research. And currently, the NIH, the CDC budgets for research have been absolutely decimated by billions of dollars. In fact, I wrote down a few of them, if you don't mind me sharing, because I think it's valuable to talk about. So we're not talking in abstract.
Okay.
For research, we've terminated $3.8 billion into cancer, HIV, ALS, and maternal health, important subjects. The entire NIH CDC budgets have been cut in half. We've created an issue where in the Environmental Protection Agency, for the Office of Research, we fired over 1,000 scientists who do that research to figure out if there's toxic pollutants that cause negative health outcomes. We've cut the CDC branch for environmental health tracking for lead and water safety. We've canceled NIH diabetes prevention program that ran for 30 years. And we've eliminated the Federal Newborn Screening Advisory Committee. So that's just a few of them.
Okay. So considering all of that, before, when we had all of that money, where did that get us? Look at the state of America, of Americans' health, and you tell me that the public is actually healthy. What RFK is doing is he is saying enough is enough. Something has to change. And I will say this very politely, but I think that you have to be insane to say more is somehow going to get us out of the current public health crisis we have right now. Americans are fat and they are sick, and it is not getting better. And taking more and more money and continuing to flush it down the toilet is not going to solve the problem. We know what will stop cancer dead in its tracks. We know what will stop all chronic disease dead in its tracks. Do you know what it is?
Lifestyle changes?
Lifestyle changes. The American Heart Association has known about this for years. The most important predictor of longevity, risk of chronic disease, all-cause mortality is VO2 max. So why aren't doctors, why isn't the government creating a public health system that says, you know what, we're going to focus on VO2 max? Because even if we stopped every dollar we had, putting it into cancer research right now, and we took that money and we said, let's get people moving, let's increase their VO2 max, cancer is stopped dead in its tracks. So the question is, when is enough to admit that the system you are a part of has drastically failed Americans? And RFK Jr., by the very fact of how he looks in his 70s, does more to encourage people to live a healthy lifestyle and truly make America healthy again.
Very passionate.
I thought that was really well done.
That was awesome, Bryan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks
I was
for
only
ripping
just
him
getting
up.
started.
I always get like, it's so mad when everybody just loves to rip on RFK Jr. I'm like, wait a second, he's the only one
Oh,
out there
shit.
questioning what the fuck is going on.
You're right. What you said. Look at
You
how
are.
look at how he
They're
looks and
hating
health.
on him, and he's the
Yeah.
only one questioning it, and he's the only one that looks like he can question it.
How did you get
he-
on that show? How did this work that you ended up there? On
So
to go to-
Jubilee does casting. So I was on the first one I did for Jubilee was against Jordan Peterson. The second one I
good one.
did was Spectrum, and then this is the third one that I've done for them. And I've gotten, I think, 2 other people on for 2 other programs. So they cast in LA, or that's where they film, is in LA. So there's people that kind of go on there regularly, and there's one guy, Greg. He's called Greg from Videos. He was in the Jordan Peterson one. I hated being in that Jordan Peterson one because it was just a whole bunch of like liberal twats. It was the one that was 20 atheists against. It was supposed to be 1 Christian. I'm not an atheist. I'm a non-theist, which, you know, I believe the human condition is one of uncertainty. You'll never be able to conclude with 100% certainty there is a God or isn't a God. So that was the position I was trying to debate. Jordan Peterson was clearly, you know, intellectually dishonest. It was a big, you know, huge PR nightmare for him. But one of the guys who was there was Greg. Greg and I disagree on pretty much everything, but Greg is not an arrogant prick. And Greg and I have great conversations. And so we were actually going to start something to where, you know, maybe we did a podcast, maybe we did something where like we're viewing certain clips and we're just looking at it from different angles. So they reached out to Greg and asked Greg if they knew if he knew of any RFK Jr. supporters. So he was just like, Bryan's your man. So they reached out to me to be on there. So like once you've been on Jubilee before, you kind of get in the rotation. But I mean, anybody can go to their casting website and see what they're casting next. Like I said, I want them to do 1 Googler against 20 doctors. I would love that. But then I really would like to debate drug policy. So I'm trying to get them to do 1 drug trafficker against 20 DEA agents. Also, I'd love to sit in the center and debate, you know, drug policy too. So,
So that's where you are. You're in LA.
yes, actually, I'm in Orange County right now. I was just in Northern California visiting my mother, and then I am in Orange County right now. I need to go to Scottsdale for, I don't know, probably a week, and then back here to do more content with some people that I'm working with. So,
Okay. Oh, and Bryan just got on X, you guys. So follow him. He's Bryan Calcott 999, right?
yep.
So am I spelling?
and also too, here's his website.
Thank you.
buildmentalmuscle.com,
Yeah.
which I see you have all your links on there, including you have a book, you have courses. I'd love to hear, please tell us about all those things.
Yeah. How do you teach discipline?
So to me, when it comes to mental fitness, I think that people approach it differently than they do physical fitness. You don't walk into the gym and say, I want to bench press 315 pounds and just do it. You know that in order to do that, that you have to work on things on a daily basis. You have to focus on your diet, and there has to be a real commitment. And I know that I beat myself up for years because I would read a book and just think because I read a book that somehow I was going to be changed. And, you read a book, it resonates with you, it gets very exciting. But there's, neural pathways that just don't change in an instant. And those neural pathways are essentially your neural muscles, is what it comes down to. So I think that when it comes to mental fitness, that when you understand that things don't happen in an instant, and you understand that, hey, I need to wake up and I need to say, okay, what are my mental macros for today? If all I'm doing is looking at social media and watching Netflix, I mean, that's junk food. So can I really, look at my mental fitness and expect to be, mentally healthier? And so I think that people just don't, really realize that. And I know that I beat myself up for years because, like I said, I would read a book and think that somehow it was going to change me, and it didn't change in an instant. And I thought that there was something wrong with me because that's just how, things were explained to me. And then I realized that, I just had unrealistic expectations. So it's really just saying, here's what we know about neuroplasticity, and here are specific things that you can do, on a daily basis to make sure that you're building mental muscle. And a lot of it is really just having the just mental awareness of, okay, these are the things that I want to work on. Everybody going to the gym, everybody has their favorite exercises. Everybody likes to do exercises their own special way. So it's not like you're reinventing the wheel. It's just really making that intention of going to the mental gym and doing those mental exercises every day. And then also, considering, like, am I getting enough mental protein? You can, have all the do all the exercises in the world, but if you're not eating enough protein, you're not building muscle. You can eat all the protein in the world, and guess what? If you're not doing exercises, you're not building muscle. So you can read all these books that you love, you really resonate with, but that's the mental protein. Where are the mental exercises? So it's really just awareness, and just kind of just bringing that approach to mental fitness, that you do the same with physical fitness.
Yeah, one of the things I say here, and I mention it to you, was discipline takes over where inspiration stops.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
the difference between people who are able to succeed in whatever they want to do versus those who don't are, well, there's many things, but one is discipline. The other is they're not afraid of failure. They get back up.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
We fail, we learn, we get up.
Yep. Life is all about just getting the shit kicked out of you and having the ability to get back up.
It's an adventure.
You
did it.
It's really not rocket science. So,
well,
rocket appliances.
In short, tell us. We never really got to hear your story. They didn't we read up on you, but tell us a little bit about you.
You want the short version or the long version?
Yeah, short version.
So I was born in West Texas. My father was a pastor. Wanted to be a cowboy. Was raised around real cowboys in West Texas in the 1980s. Absolutely, loved my life.
Are you Gen X?
Huh?
Are you Gen X or millennial?
So I'm a Gen X.
Oh yeah, you are Gen X.
Yeah.
You made the cutoff.
Okay.
Because you speak like a Gen Xer, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
You look like a millennial, but
Okay, I'll take that. Thank you.
You act like Gen X.
So it was, everything in my external environment was telling me I had worth, I had value. My father was a pastor. If you're in West Texas, if your father's a pastor, I mean, everybody in the community looks up to you. Part of my father's salary was a membership to the country club. And so we didn't have money, but it didn't matter. And then when I was 10 years old, we moved to New Jersey. And it was the first time in my life that I felt inferior. And it was all because of money. Those kids weren't tougher than me. They weren't smarter than me, nothing, but they had money. And that led to my obsession with money. And the reality is that anyone who is willing to risk their, life and their freedom and their safety for money, there's some like deep-seated issues going on. So I started off, going into New York City when I was in high school because I wasn't scared to go in there. You could get weed for cheaper, bring it out to Jersey and sell it to all the rich white kids, for more money. So it kind of started like that. And then when I went to Texas, it's like when you go to San Antonio, not a lot of people know it, but it's the largest land transshipment point for illegal drugs in the United States. And it's because 85% of the trucks entering the United States, go to Nuevo Laredo and go to San Antonio, Texas. So San Antonio, Texas is a very, very significant city when it comes to drug trafficking. So I was 18 years old and already putting together like loads of weed, to send it out of state, and then would go to Kentucky with like small amounts of coke. And then I was going to college. I was on the dean's list. I was going to raves. I was going to raves selling ecstasy, or go to like small towns, small college towns in West Texas, and sell ecstasy that way. And I met a girl. Her family was legitimate golf cartel. And this was, but you know what, though? I made my own choices, though. I can sit there and say that, she was a part of it, but ultimately, she was a contributing factor. I was a determining factor. So you can't sit there, you know what I mean, and put it on anybody else. But she, like, her family was cartel, not like, oh, they were like, no, they were cartel. So you don't normally get, keys of coke just dropped on your lap. So, got into that, got caught. I was 22 years old. It was my first offense. I was on the dean's list. I had a year to go before I went to law school. And because I wouldn't become a rat, they threw the book at me. So if I would have cooperated, I would have gotten about 36 months, would have gotten out in about 18 months. My own attorney lied to me to try to scare me and said, unless you cooperate, and rat on your girlfriend and her family, she said, you're going to do 15 years in prison. And I just said, so be it. I'm not a rat. And ended up getting 7.5 years, did 5.5 years on that. Was very, very committed to never going back to prison. I mean, the entire time I was in prison, I read and read and read. I had a mentor in there. He was a college professor, had a PhD. It was absolutely amazing. Like, as far as like how much I was able to grow, just how much I was able to learn while I was in there. And so did criminological research on like prison gangs while I was in there, corresponded with the head of criminology, Dr. Allison Liebling at Cambridge. I think it was probably possible that I, got to work on a PhD in criminology going to Cambridge, but I got out and I was like, I don't want to go do a 4-year PhD. It's like, I want to have some freedom. So I went and visited my sister in San Francisco, absolutely loved it. This is before, everybody there had their heads in their asses. It was like a perfectly awesome, tolerant city where even before it was legal, if you wanted to smoke weed, you could smoke weed. The cops didn't care. But, if you wanted to use heroin on the sidewalk, they were like, oh, we're going to draw the line there. We're not going to let you use heroin. So this was, 15 years ago when it was actually a great city. So went there and I got a job selling Porsches and Audis. I was like the top salesman my first month there. Was making a lot of money. And how it works in California is you have to get your temporary sales license. They do a background check on you. And then the state will give you your permanent sales license. Only state in the United States where you have to have a fucking license to sell cars. And I was I was on cloud nine. I was really proud of myself. I felt like I made commitments, and promises to myself, and I was honoring them. And the third or fourth day of my third month, I was going to make like $25,000 that month. And the owner called me upstairs and said, the state of California denied your permanent sales license. And he literally told the assistant manager and manager, like, if you have to get attorneys, if you have to do anything, help him out. And he shook my hand and said, you always have a job here if you can get this taken care of. And that, it shook me for about 5 minutes. I'll be honest with you. I went to my car. I fucking cried and wiped the tears from my face and said, you know what? This is going to turn into a blessing. I'm going to do something even better. And so then I got a job offer. It was AXA Financial Services. It was a group interview with a whole bunch of kids that had fucking MBAs. And I'm just like, there's no way in hell I'm going to get this job. And after the group interview, the guy came over, pulled me to the side, let everybody else leave, and was like, you have what it takes. This job is going to change your life. You're going to be a millionaire. And it's just like the enthusiasm he was telling me that. And it's just like, here I am in the financial district in San Francisco with somebody who's highly, highly successful, like not full of shit, like literally like financial industry telling me that like I was going to be a millionaire. This was going to change my life. And I told him right from the beginning, I said, look, I've been in prison. I have a record. And he goes, I don't care. He goes, you have what it takes. If you can get bonded, you could pass your Series 7 or your Series 63. He said, you have a job here. So of course I couldn't get bonded because of my record. And, at this point, it's kind of like breaking me down. I'm getting frustrated with, it's like, you're getting frustrated with the system. You're doing anything and everything that you can to not go back to prison. And it's like, I've never been a dishonest person. Like, I like to make money. I don't want to fucking steal. Like, I don't want access to people's, social security numbers and date of birth so I can go commit fraud. That's never been my thing. Like, drug traffickers are hustlers. So I finally had a hearing with the administrative law judge for the state of California to try to get my sales license. And she denied it. And I will never forget that moment. It was just like, I don't fucking care. It was a light switch. walked out of there, undid my tie on my suit, and it was just kind of like the gloves are off. And that was during the Northern California green rush, where you could make millions trafficking marijuana out of Northern California. So started going back to Texas and started going back to New York. At my heyday, I was making $500,000 to $600,000 a month. So it wasn't like it was, small level stuff, but it's never enough, like literally never enough. It didn't matter that I was making that much money. I had an opportunity to make $1 million a month cash, and jumped on it. That put me on a private jet, December 12, 2012, with just a little bit of weed. And the pilot for the plane was a snitch for the DEA. So when I landed in Teterboro, New Jersey, the DEA was there. I knew my rights, kept on asking if I was being detained. They said no, so I was able to leave. They called me when they finally got a drug dog there, said that there was probable cause, that I needed to come turn myself in. I was like, I'll be right there. So I was on the run for 3 years. Yeah. Northern California.
Just wait for me. I'll be right there.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. So they finally called me in Colorado, brought me back to New Jersey. At first, I had $1 million bond. Took me a couple months they finally brought it down to 350, finally got out. They had me on an ankle monitor for 3.5 years. And that's where I really started to get into health, because my mother has Parkinson's. While I was on the run the entire time, I did not have any contact with my family because I did not want to put them in a situation where they would have to lie. And so I didn't, see my mother, her health was failing. And so I, just had a lot of guilt, and I wanted to help her. And I started to, understand like how therapeutic ketogenic diets can be for Parkinson's patients. And I said, you know what, I'm literally going to make the food myself and send it to my mother. I got the idea for my meal prep business. It was the first ketogenic meal prep company in the country. So I'm on bail in New Jersey on an ankle monitor, have to be home every night at 9 o'clock. Have never started a legal business in my life. First legal business I ever started, we did $2 million in revenue our first year in business. Within 10 months, I was sitting in the Goodwin and Proctor building in New York City. They told me it was $100 million to $1 billion idea. It's just kind of like just surreal. And then the only reason I lost that business is because I had to go to prison for the marijuana case. I had to go back to prison for 18 months. So it's like you just look at the system, and it's so unbelievably asinine, where, these prosecutors and these attorneys should have situations where it's like, look, even if you could say that I just did it because I was on bond and I didn't want to go to prison, something fucking significant like that, where we were actually, I think it was the Dr. Ludwig study from Harvard. It was one of the first big ketogenic studies. They reached out to us, and we were going to make the food for that study. And then they found out about my ongoing criminal case, and Dr. Ludwig himself called me up and said, look, Bryan, he said, I don't really care, man. He said, I think what you're doing is awesome. He goes, but we'll never get the money. You know what I mean? Because and it's just like, that was another time where it was just like an absolute kick in the gut, where it's like, I was so proud of myself. It wasn't about the money. It was like, it started off with being about my sister, my mother's health. And then it was other people's health. Like, we had people who had cancer. I'll never forget it. My phone rang. I was in the office, and I knew who it was because it was a customer that I would talk to her a lot, because I knew she had cancer. And so I picked up the phone, and she's crying on the other end of the phone. And I'm just like, fuck, like, did we get her sick? Wow. Like, if you're on chemo, you have compromised immune system. Like, shit, why else would she be calling me crying? Well, she was sitting in her car in the parking lot of her oncologist's office, and she had just left, and her oncologist told her that she was in remission. And he said, I absolutely believe it's because you're eating these meals and you're in a state of ketosis. So that woman was crying. I was the first person she called when she left her oncologist, calling to tell me that, she thought she was going to live now because she was eating the food that, we were making for her. That was one of the most memorable moments of my life. So it's just, you feel like you're on cloud nine, like, fuck, like, I found my path. I found my calling. This is what I want to do. Like, who cares if it's money or not? Like, I want to help people with their health. And then, you still get like doors shut in your face. And then you have this opportunity, and, you lose it because you have to go back to prison. And like I said, those are all contributing factors. Ultimately, I was the determining factor. I can accept responsibility for, all of that now, but it still is frustrating. And there's still people out there that are being, negatively impacted by how the system just sees them as a number rather than.
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah.
Well, you should have been a pharmaceutical rep. Then you could have done it legally and for free.
And made
no issues.
I didn't even know it, but he has like YouTube stuff. He has 7 Ferraris. He got caught on the yacht, in Miami during COVID. When he was, it's just like, he's
In
a
Florida,
straight,
here,
we
we didn't
dove into
acknowledge
him.
COVID existed, though.
dude, but he's just like a straight
Yeah.
douchebag. It's just
So-
like you look at him and it's just like, buddy, like you're not even doing a good job. Like
No.
we're literally the same people. Like you have Ferraris, you were on yachts with a whole bunch of girls. Like you were trying to live that lifestyle. Like
Yeah.
you're just, the only difference is you're a legal drug dealer and I was an illegal drug dealer. It's literally the only difference.
Well, it's funny. I'll go into two things there. I was a professional wrestler for years and years and years. And we had so many people die. You know, they would hit 40 years old and die. And I remember saying, it's not. They're always like, it's steroids, it's steroids, it's steroids with steroids. And I'm like, it's not the steroids. Steroids were created to make you a superhuman and recover. I said, it's not the illegal drugs that are killing people. It's the legal drugs killing these guys. So it's the sleep medications, it's the pain pills, it's the stuff that doctors are prescribing that's killing them. And they're like, you're a nut. It's got to be the steroids. I'm like, it's not the steroids. It's got to be the growth hormone. It's not the growth hormone. Okay. It is the legal drugs that are killing people. And then 20 years later, it turns out it was the legal drugs killing people.
Yep.
So yeah, it's
Do you know about the mistake they just made with women in HRT? Do you know about that?
I don't know what.
Dr. Atia has said that there's a whole generation of women that have been lost essentially to medical malpractice because there was one fucking study that they misinterpreted trying to say that estrogen is related to breast cancer. And so that's why they put a black box warning on HRT, estrogen supplementation for women. And it has taken 30 years of going against a medical consensus saying, hey, this isn't right. Look at the data, look at the data, look at the data, look at the data, to where they finally said, oh shit, we made a mistake. And guess what? For the past 30 years, we could have been prescribing women HRT. And, you know, it's like how many women suffer with menopause? You know, it's like you look at the divorce rate for menopause, you look at the quality of life for these women, what happens to their bone density. You know what I mean? Literally everything. And because the medical consensus got it fucking wrong, and it was one study that every doctor took it and just ran with it and said, no, the science says this, the science says that. And so here we are once again, like how many millions of women have suffered as a result of their mistakes with misinterpreting data, and not just like suffered a little bit, but suffered a lot. It's like you look at bone density as you get older, especially with women, bone density and muscle mass. And guess what? If a woman has a proper levels of estrogen, she has proper bone density and she has proper muscle mass. It's just, it's unbelievable. It's just, when is enough?
Not just that.
April you can get up for this so many times. Go ahead, April. Yeah, you got a lot to say on this.
Well, I just say men can get T therapy literally on every corner, and insurance will cover it. Women have to fight for it, and if they can get it, they have to pay for it out of pocket. They have to pay for all the testing out of pocket. So
it's big money.
You're not wrong.
Well, it's changing. So the FDA just removed the black box warning from HRT for women, and they took the black box warning and now they're slapping it on the COVID vaccine. So
I saw that.
There's some poetic justice for you.
Yeah, it's taken.
But how long before people actually pay attention to that shit, though?
Well, I mean, the doctors are starting to pay attention for it. I mean, Dr. Atia, even though he's still like a little off on his obsession with LDL and still putting people on like low level statins, he went to Stanford. He's a voice of reason. I know about Dr. Atia because he was one of the first ones to really push ketogenic diets and talked about how it changed his life. And he's not necessarily hardcore into keto anymore. He believes in more metabolic flexibility, but he's created this, awesome longevity protocol. And he is obsessed with longevity and says, look, if you want to live the longest, here's what it is. And guess what? It really comes down to exercise physiology, muscle mass, and VO2 max. And they asked him on 60 Minutes, they said, well, what do you say about some of these doctors that are saying, it's kind of, fringe stuff and you're a quack? And he goes, look, I went to Stanford. And he goes, you want to know how much training we had in nutrition? 0. You want to know how much training we had in exercise physiology? 0. So if these things are what's, going to help us live the longest, and these doctors have no training in it, then why are we even listening to them when it comes down to it? And the thing of it is that
that's what I said. I'm like, somebody's like, they're like, you don't know as much as a doctor. I said, I know more than your doctor. I said, because your doctor gets approximately 2.5 days of nutritional training in their 8-year academic, in their career. Through their academic career, 2.5 days. I'm like,
Yep.
they, let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food. They don't study any of this. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're taught to be pill pushers ever since, Rockefeller changed everything. We are one of the only
Petroleum.
countries, 5 countries that were colonized by England only push nothing but pharmaceuticals, whereas every other country still uses herbals and plant medicines and exercise and food. You have Canada, America, New Zealand, UK, and America. Did I say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the 5. We're the 5 that only push pills, shots, pills, shots.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I remember when they were trying to make supplements and vitamins only available by prescription. That was probably about 20 years ago.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that petition going around because they were trying to make vitamin D and all this that you go to a vitamin store, and they were trying to shut that down. And I think in Canada,
I don't
to
even
some
think it was
degree,
20
they did.
less than that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why marijuana has been illegal for so long. It's because it was 2 lobbies. It was the pharmaceutical companies and the alcohol companies. They were scared that they would lose profits for it. So California in 2010 was the first state to try to legalize it, but they just made it legal. They didn't put a component in there for commercialization. The other thing too is that all the growers in Northern California, it's like literally when I was in the whole business, they were just like, hell no, don't make it legal. Like if you make it legal, like our whole industry is going to go away. So they voted against it. Well, the gentleman who got the law passed in Colorado, he looked at it and said, okay, we don't live in a democracy, we live in a lobbytocracy. And ultimately, if you look at what happened in California, pharmaceutical companies and alcohol companies spent money on campaigns to see to it that legalized marijuana didn't get passed in California. So he wrote the law in Colorado to entice the tobacco companies to see it as a way to replace lost profits so that their lobby would get behind it and protect it. So he said, we live in a lobbytocracy. Here's how you play chess. I'm going to get this lobby to battle against this lobby, and that's how I'm going to get it passed. So it had nothing to do with Democratic votes and, all this other stuff supposedly that people believe in. He literally said, I'm going to pit this lobby against this lobby, and I'm going to make this law very attractive so that the tobacco companies want to protect it and get it passed. And lo and behold, he did that. And that was the first domino to fall. So even in the passage of our laws, where over 65% of the country for the longest time has felt that marijuana should be legal. So if we were this, amazing democracy that supposedly they claim, well, soon, 65%, that's that's a strong majority. You would say, hey, the laws are going to follow past it. But no, it doesn't matter that 65% want it passed. There's a lobby that says, we don't want it passed. And it only got passed when you said, here's another lobby that said, hey, we actually do want it passed. So even personal experience with marijuana legalization and looking at what it took to say, hey, we need to get someone else involved who would want to protect this because they can make money off of it. And until we do that, we're not going to have, passage of it. So then couple that to, okay, this is what the pharmaceutical companies are willing to do. They are literally willing to go against democratic rule and democratic opinion just to make money. 65% of the country thought marijuana should be legal. They did not want it to be legal because they wanted to make money off of it. And so they used their influence and their whole lobby machine, and they kept it illegal. And they only failed when another lobby got in their way and stopped them from doing that. So it's like, we live in a fucking democracy. Get the fuck out of here.
No, we live in a corporatocracy.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for many, many decades now.
a farm. Yeah. It seems like it's a pharmatocracy right now.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions for you. I know we're running out of time, but 2 questions for you. We can hit them back to back. One is, what do you think the main thing is that needs to change with our healthcare? And what would you tell your younger self?
With our healthcare, we are at, and I say this out of compassion, a lot of people take it the wrong way, but if you look at the pharmaceutical model is trying to manage and mask symptoms. And to manage and mask symptoms is to enable someone. You're trying to shelter them from the consequences of their negative decisions. Yeah. And when it comes to addiction, when it comes to, a lot of things, you cannot do that. And if you do that, you will enable them. So me personally, I think that like health policy in America needs to be, look, if there is evidence that diet and lifestyle can drastically change this, improve this, reverse this, et cetera, we are not going to spend $1 in research or anything in order to develop a drug for it that just is going to manage and mask symptoms. And the reason why I say that is because it's very simple. Like, if you have a disease that you have no control over and you were born with it, there's literally nothing you can do. Hell, I wouldn't care if I had to give up 75% of my paycheck to help you. I would do it, and I would do it gladly. But if you're telling me that we all have to chip into the pot and that we all have to pay for research and pay for drug prices to be low because the majority of Americans don't give a shit about their health, I'm sorry, but that's just not okay. And it's the same thing like during COVID, where like the majority of people yeah. No, that's absolutely what it is. But the thing of it is
people are just going to be abusive to their own bodies, and they got the people who are healthy paying for the sick who don't give a shit. Who are
with the consequences.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that to be an asshole. I'm saying that because
years.
if there's a fire that's if there's a fire that's going to get you off of your ass and do something about your health, it's literally knowing that, guess what? There's no one's coming to save you. There's no money from the government to develop these drugs to shield you from the negative consequences of your poor health choices. So it's really, really simple. I'm a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian because I'm inconsiderate and insensitive. I'm a libertarian because I think that that's what gets shit done. Atlas Shrugged is one of the most important books I think you can possibly read in your life. And they tried to say that she was very selfish and that she was inconsiderate, and she wasn't. Like, her whole political model was, this is how you get people off your ass. Yeah, it's an unbelievable book, unbelievable. And it's crazy because in that book, it talks about how the moochers want to take away from the producers, and they always do it in the name of social justice. And that ultimately ends up like bleeding the entire system. And so the whole concept of Atlas Shrugged was the producers got together and said, all right, motherfuckers, go at it. Follow everything to its logical conclusions. What happens when we stop producing? There's nothing for you to, supposedly take over in the name of social justice. And it literally caused everything to collapse so that it could be, built up again. It's like everybody's upset with what's going on in New York and the new mayor. And I say, like, let those motherfuckers learn. You know what I mean? Like, let them do whatever the hell they want to do.
I'm like, this is what they need. They need this.
100%.
They voted for this. Let them have it. This is what they need to wake up to what it is.
But they don't, though. Go to San Francisco, and there's literally there's 3 trash cans in San Francisco: recycling, regular trash, and one for needles. And it's just like, how much human shit has to be on the sidewalk? How many businesses have to leave before you pull your head out of your ass? So that's the part where it's like, look, I'm not anti-cop. I'm just very realistic about what police have the ability to do. Police will never have the ability to effectively deal with the war on drugs. And I think it's unfair to give them that task. So like I said, like, I'm not anti-cop, but in the same token, it's like, if a society can't ensure public safety, it has failed. And when you're going into San Francisco, and like every time I'm there with my nieces, I'm scared to go there, not because I'm scared of the people on the streets. I'm scared because if anybody does anything in front of my nieces, like, I'll literally rip their head off. And I could be trying to protect, my nieces, and I would be the one that ends up in prison. And then, the homeless person who was shitting and, shooting heroin on the sidewalk would, get a check for $650 while I went to prison for doing the right thing. So anyway, I think
my dad lived there.
California.
Yeah. So we're at a crossroads. We have to let people deal with the consequences of their actions so that people will be motivated. And the other thing too is, like, say, someone like with my mom, with Parkinson's, was part of it related to her poor health decisions? Sure. Was part of it, maybe related to genes that were outside of her control? Maybe, who knows? But, there are diseases out there where it isn't related to personal choice. So if we weren't wasting money trying to enable people to make poor decisions, we would have more money to do research for the conditions that absolutely do need these, pharmaceutical interventions or new technology. So it's like, we're literally wasting money because Americans want to be lazy and fat. And it's like, if you're a pharmaceutical company, you're like, fuck yeah, like, this is great. This is business as good.
Well, respectfully, I'm going to disagree with a little bit of that. And here's why. While I agree with most of it, I'm going to say that I think the pharmaceuticals are creating diseases as well.
100%.
We know the vaccines are. We know that the statins are directly linked to memory diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. We have a dementia and Alzheimer's epidemic right now. Ever since they rolled back the statin numbers and they started prescribing like crazy, now all our parents have dementia and Alzheimer's. They're like, or not all of them, but a significant
85%
amount that our
take
grandparents
statins.
did not
Way
have.
more.
So our grandparents did not have the dementia and Alzheimer's, and they ate bacon and eggs, and their statin numbers or their
Fat. Yeah.
cholesterol numbers were left alone. They also weren't fat. So when
Well,
they started
to me, it's it's a very small number of diseases that pharmaceutical companies haven't created, and some kind of intervention could be beneficial. Very, very, very small number.
Creating the diseases because we have a for-profit healthcare where disease is profitable. So, and we also have normalized
chronic disease.
Yes. If you get in a car accident or you need to be put back together, this is the best country in the world. So anything else, forget it. We have no preventative, we have no cure, we have no maintenance that's healthy. And we have normalized a food and drug administration.
Yep.
So we have incentivized our food to be completely toxic so that we can give them the drugs that they need when they get the disease that they shouldn't have.
Yep.
So this to me is a real problem that a lot of people may or may not be realizing, that some of their doctors are not acting in their best interest. They're acting in the pharmaceutical representative's interest, who is also giving them a timeshare if they push this drug a whole lot.
Yep.
So, this is one of the things I think that needs to be exposed more. But yeah.
Do you know about like farm subsidies and how they changed under Nixon? Do you know about that? That to me is like, not a lot of people know this too, but you look
Some
at
of them are paid to grow.
When you look at the size of Cargill, I think is bigger than, might be like 95% of publicly traded companies. It's the largest agricultural company in the world. It's absolutely massive. Nobody knows about them. They're just lurking behind the shadows. And if you understand like how they influence farm subsidy policy, it's literally corporate welfare. So you have big ag, big food, all in cahoots with big pharma, and they're just bleeding the government dry. So I'll be honest with you. It's not that I don't give a shit if there's a billionaire like Elon Musk not paying their fair share of taxes. That's like one small part of the problem. The biggest part of the problem are the leeches that take all of the revenue from taxes and say, oh, we need it for these social programs. I would bet you anything that if you had a forensic accountant and you looked at America's debt, trillions and trillions of dollars, that 90% of it was corruption that ended up as profits in the hands of these billionaires. So it's just like, look, even like these billionaires don't want to pay these fucking taxes because they know that these other billionaires are taking that money and they're doing it all in the name of social justice. So it's like, hey, if you get rid of this waste and you get rid of this corruption, guess what? You don't have to tax these fucking people more. The whole point is that they're saying it's done in the name of social justice, and it's not. It's literally just turning into their welfare, into their fucking profit. So that's what I find is just like unbelievably just hypocritical and ironic of the left, how they want to criticize that side. And it's like, you guys don't seem to understand that these social programs that you're supporting are literally the biggest source of corruption and ultimately, like corporate profit that you're supposedly against. Then Nancy Pelosi and fucking, Gavin Newsom are just sitting there laughing their asses off. Like, these motherfuckers keep buying it. Holy shit. It's like, how do you look at Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom and not just see them for the just evil people that they are?
For the related family that they are. So what's crazy is everybody got really up in arms about billionaires running the country. And I'm like, well, what about the people who were working for us as public servants who became millionaires? Wow. They were serving us by passing laws that fucked us, but worked for them. Do we not have a problem with that too? I mean, we should have a problem with that as well, right?
There's so many problems here.
No problems there. That's all good. So,
but you know what it is though? American politics is just, you don't really support your candidate. You just hate the other person so much where you're willing to turn a blind eye. And that's my whole thing is, I'll be honest with you. I think that it's all a stage. I think they're all puppets. I think they're all given scripts where it's like, hey,
they'll work together.
You need to do this so that the other side hates you so much and vice versa. And it's like Trump's Treasury Secretary. Do you know what the name of the firm that he left to work for Trump as a Treasury Secretary? The Soros Fund. He literally worked for George Soros, and he's Trump's Treasury Secretary. And guess what?
Actually, I think I did hear that somewhere after the fact, though.
Steve Mnuchin, Trump's first Treasury Secretary, you know who he worked for before he was Treasury Secretary? George fucking Soros. And here's the real comical part. Steve Mnuchin was president of One West Bank in 2010 when Kamala Harris was the attorney general for the state of California. In One West Bank, they broke some serious fucking laws, taking people's homes. Like it was bad. It was so fucking egregious. He should have gone to prison. Like people should have gone to prison. And they asked Kamala Harris, like, are you going to prosecute? And she goes, no, we're not going to prosecute. And they say, well, why not? She's just like, I don't have to give an answer. And so here's Mnuchin, who would be, you know, Trump's future Treasury Secretary, working for One West Bank. And lo and behold, who do you think started One West Bank? None other than George Soros. And who do you think made campaign contributions to Kamala Harris for the attorney general race in 2010? George Soros. So here's two people that would later on down the road supposedly be on opposite sides, but yet back in 2010, they were clearly playing on the same side. I can't. And then the whole thing with Palantir, I am sorry, but Palantir is the most egregious.
That's a bad.
That is horrible. And nobody is, you know, and it's just like, and I get it. Nobody's standing up because they think that, holy shit, if I criticize President Trump, that means I support Kamala Harris, and I hate Kamala Harris more. So I'm.
Oh no, we criticize all of them here.
No. I know. That doesn't matter.
We're very neutral in the bullshit here.
But I'm saying the majority of Americans, you know what I mean, think that. And then it's just like you look at Kamala Harris, and she defied the Supreme Court. She refused to let 5,000 nonviolent prisoners go from conditions that were deemed by the Supreme Court to be cruel and unusual. Like Justice Kennedy, who was a conservative justice, he said there was needless death and suffering happening on a weekly basis, and she would not let 5,000. It was the last 5,000 they had to go to keep to satisfy the court order from the United States Supreme Court. Created a constitutional crisis. They said that she wrote motions that were, you know, in bad faith, that she would never be able to sit on a federal bench because it was so bad. And then here, like, she's going to be president. And it's like when she was district attorney, and I think when she was attorney general too, she was eviscerated by judges for withholding exculpatory evidence. Like, how the fuck are you a prosecutor? You're going to withhold exculpatory evidence?
Her husband, Doug Emhoff, was all over all that stuff that happened in Western North Carolina with the mudslides and the land grabs and the lithium mines and everything. Like, he was part of that deal. There was a mine deal there ahead of time before all of that happened out there, where people believe that weather modification doesn't exist. It absolutely exists. And the mine wanted to expand by 2025, but the residents were pushing back against it. And then all of a sudden, Helene came in, and everybody was losing houses, losing everything, dying. Wow. People were more concerned with surviving than the mine. And now the mine is free to expand. So, and Emhoff is part of that. So in that area of Western North Carolina, they have the highest quality courts in the nation. And you need courts for AI. You need courts for phones. You need courts for computers. Okay. And same with the lithium.
Yeah.
So if we're going to make America great, we got to keep it in the country.
Did you ever read Confessions of an Economic Hitman?
No. But
you have to read that.
I'm a big fan of Following the Money and Occam's Razor. So the simplest answer is usually the correct one, especially if there's money.
He was hired out of college for this like prestigious firm, you know, like paid him like $200,000 a year. And he was like, okay, well, what do we do? And they were like, oh, your handler will get to you, you know, eventually. And so finally his handler gets to him after like, 3 months. And she says, look, this is what happened. She said, Iran had democratic elections. They elected a democratically elected ruler, and the ruler started to make economic decisions that were in, accordance with Iran's economic health, right? Rightfully so. Well, the U.S. didn't like that because of the oil, And so the CIA went in there and had him overthrown. This is what led to the whole Islamic Revolution.
I might have read this book actually,
So the
or
CIA
read something about it.
got caught with their pants down of literally going in there and overthrowing a democratically elected ruler. And so they said, okay, we can't do that anymore. It's too much of a liability. So they created this firm, and this firm was an extension of the CIA. And he literally said, like, look, we would go to places where there was money, oil, gold, whatever the hell it was. And he'd literally show up, and tell whoever was in charge of the company, there's 2 suitcases, one's got millions of dollars in it, one has a gun in it. The choice is essentially yours. And he talked about his experience, for essentially working for that firm, which is the CIA, over the course of years. And what he found is that, the CIA used to just be, an extension of corporatocracy, and they would go to other countries and exploit other countries for American interest. And then it's almost like it's an addiction. They can't do it. And lo and behold, the whole apparatus started to turn inwards, and it started to do it on America itself and like American citizens. And so that's like literally what's happening. So what you just described is essentially exactly the theme in Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And that's crazy how it's not even like we kept it external. We literally started to do it to ourselves too.
Well, my theory is with these fires and no access to water and weather modification hitting in places of interest and areas of desire where the land is meant to be acquired. I don't think there are coincidences.
No.
I mean, if we can do all these things remotely, from drones to 6G to all these things, why couldn't we control the weather?
Yeah.
Operation Popeye, we were controlling it way back during Vietnam.
Yeah.
To extend the tsunami season.
Look what happened in Texas with that flooding. Even though that kind of flooding
they admitted
does happen
it.
in
Rainmaker
Texas.
LLC.
Yeah.
So So these companies are usually small private companies, which is why they don't have to. We delved into that a little bit. They're small private companies that do the cloud seeding, so they don't have to post their information. So they're usually run at state level governments and private, so they don't have to give us all the information that we would love to know.
Yeah.
So
Well, we are running out of
are.
here.
Yeah,
I know you have another podcast to get on, April. You had one last question. What was it? What would you tell your younger self, Bryan?
Real quick, what would you tell your younger self?
I always tell the story. There's 2 ways to the top of a mountain. You can get dropped off by a helicopter, or you can climb to the top. Mm-hmm. And once you get to the top, the view might be the same, but the appreciation and the experience is not the same. The person who got dropped off on the top by the helicopter, they're not a better person as a result of being on top of that mountain. But the person that climbed, they're mentally stronger, they're physically stronger, and there's a different experience and a different appreciation. So when you climb that mountain and you get to the top, you're going to get to the top and you're going to realize that the most beautiful view is not what you're seeing on the outside. The most beautiful view is what you're seeing on the inside. And I love the saying that, life isn't about the journey or the destination. It's about who you become along the way. And so, the peak, getting to the top of the mountain is just to motivate you. It's like the process, the growth, that's the goal.
I love that. That's so good.
I love it.
That's so good.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you for being with us. We really appreciate your time and learning from you. Everybody have a good holiday. Don't forget, don't let the world change your smile. Let your smile change the world. All right. So have a great holiday. We won't be live next week. We pre-tape. So make sure you watch it because it's Colin versus Ray. And it is hilarious. But we will be live the week after that. And we love you. And Bryan, before you go, we do this thing with people who are fit. You can choose biceps or boobs. Which one do you want to flex?
You know what? I haven't been working out that much lately.
So I was going to say, are you doing the biceps? Okay,
there you go.
Okay. Biceps, yeah.
We didn't know if you were going to do it.
I've been on the road too much. I only get to the gym like twice a week. So
usually we do pet flexing competition.
Oh, really? Okay.
So and we see who does the flex off and wins. But
yes,
thank you for being with us, everybody. Thank you for hanging in there and being with us. Have a very Merry Christmas, and we love you. Mwah. Everybody have a good night. Bye.